Of course, everybody, if you guys don't know me, if this is your first time here, of course, I'm Scott Royal Smith. I'm the owner of Royal Legal Solutions. I'm a longtime real estate investor, as well as entrepreneur. Today we're going to be talking about land trusts, and specifically looking at how do land trusts perform for any tax considerations that we have going on there, right? As you know, guys, the typical format that we're going to follow in this group, as well as every week that we come in, we'll have a brief introduction, be able to say hello to each other. Also have that time to just be able to connect, and we'll do that through our breakout rooms. And the connection that we're looking for in the breakout rooms, how do you make that a win? What is a win for you coming out of the breakout room means that you're having some type of conversation that's going to be able to connect you to that other person. This is the opportunities that you have to be able to expand your network and share with each other what valuable information you have from your experience. So today, what we're going to be talking about is going to be land trusts and taxes with the land trust. So coming into the conversation, if that's something you want to share about with what new deals that you have coming up that you're excited about, if you wanted to share about, hey, this is my experience with land trusts. Maybe I've looked at them in the past and I thought, wow, that sounds scary. Or, hey, I've been doing it and I didn't realize how easy it could be to really use those strategies, and how what those, even if it's down to like, hey, I file a taxes with it, and here's how this has gone for me in the past. All of those subject matters are things that are valuable experience that you can bring to your group to be able to further your connections with your network, and expanding your net worth as you expand your network into that. So guys, today what we are going to be covering off on at the very end is going to be some of those questions. As we have more questions, make sure to write those into the chat. So if you have more questions as we're going through today, just dump them into the chat. Don't worry about if it's like perfectly spelled or anything. We just want the chat to be like our database of questions, of who has what questions, where's the curiosity at. Today we're going to be talking about land trust tax implications. Pete was meant to present on it this today, but I will be taking over it today. I'm going to do as good a job as I can. Anything else that I don't know, we will leave for Pete, for everybody to contact Pete about whatever those remaining questions would be. But again, let's dump them into the chat, and that will we have all of our questions saved there. So again, so this is Pete. He's our resident CPA, MBA, and fractional CFO. So if you're a business entrepreneur, or you're somebody who is getting into that level of investment where you're like, wow, my financial intelligence around, my cash flows, my debt servicing, et cetera, is starting to become a place where I'd really like some help to be able to dial in, to put in best practices there. Pete is a guy that's going to be able to help you streamline how your financials run with your business, to have better intelligence, business counseling for how to grow that business with his MBA background, and also how to save the most money on taxes with his CPA background as well. So when we're looking at land trust, guys, what we're really focused on here is this piece that we would typically refer to as our freedom temple, right? So the way the freedom temple works is that it works first that you just read it from top to bottom of what's the most important things to focus on. Your first two are all about making money and saving money, because the name of the game is not what you make, it's also what you keep. And so the first thing that takes money from you is your taxes. So first you have to be able to create the money, and that's your wealth creation. Second thing you have to do is protect it from taxes. Now, to be able to keep your money, what you need is asset protection. And the asset protection makes it so that way people can't take your money from lawsuits. So the way that we do that is we create anonymity around the ownership of the assets. And then what we do is we compartmentalize and separate out the liability from all of the assets. We isolate every single asset. So if there's a lawsuit against one asset, they can't go after the other assets. And then lastly, we use insurance to protect us against most things most of the time. Insurance is our best first line of defense, but we don't depend on profit-seeking corporations to protect us when we can protect ourselves using LLC structures and other structures to take us from that 90% protected to 100% protected. After that, what we're looking for is making sure that we're streamlining all of our systems and processes, so that way we can better leverage our time, because the more time that we're able to save, the more wealth we're able to create. Wealth, not just in terms of money, but also time with your family, time with your kids, the vacations and hobbies that you might want to be doing. Lastly, we look at legacy planning, which is, I've done all of this great work to be able to create this amazing life for myself. I care about what happens to all of my stuff and where it's going to go to take care of the people that I love in my life after I'm gone. And that's what the legacy planning is all about. It's all about being able to say, I can then control who is going to get what money and when, and what's going to be in best and highest service to my children and my family after I go. And that's where the estate planning and legacy planning comes into place. For today, what we're going to be focused on is going to be this piece regarding the anonymity of the asset protection there, and then we're going to be doing that with the land trust, of course. All right, cool. See if I can clear this annotation here real quick. Okay, so what is a land trust? And a land trust is a kind of revocable trust. So there's two types of trust. If you've watched our trust masterclass, you know there's actually multiple different kinds of trust. There's revocable, irrevocable, and statutory trusts. We have our masterclass on that. If you've missed it, ping inside of the chat. We can go ahead and get you a link to that masterclass, or if you reach out to us, we can get you that. But a land trust is a type of revocable trust. We use it to hold real estate and real estate related assets. It can actually hold any type of property, right? So it's not just about land, right? It can hold any type of property, including personal property. So it could hold your boat, it could hold your cars, could hold anything in that vein. So what kind of taxes do you get if you're using land trust? Land trusts, first of all, are primarily used for privacy and asset protection. These types of revocable trusts are also used for probate avoidance when they're used as like a living trust as part of your estate plan. For the purposes that we use it for, we're looking for privacy inside of our asset protection plan. So the land trusts obscure who owns the piece of property. So if anybody ever comes to look to sue you, they can't find out anything that you own. When it looks like you don't own anything, when they come and look to try to sue you, you're not the person that they're going to sue, right? They need to be able to know up front that they're going to get paid if they're successful with the lawsuit. And if it looks like you're not going to be able to pay them if they win, then they go to sue somebody else. So the question is there any tax implications to the land trust? And it says it can depend. It depends on whether you structure the land trust as a revocable trust or an irrevocable trust. Now, I said before, we're always using land trusts inside of Royal Legal Solutions as a revocable trust. And specifically why we're doing that is because we're not using them for any other purpose besides the anonymity. So the great things that we use for revocable trusts is that they can be amended at any time by the grantor. So there's no restrictions on when you can amend it. They're treated as disregarded entities for tax purposes. So for IRS, it's as if they don't exist, right? So there's no additional complications in citing the taxes. There's not even the necessity to get an EIN number for a revocable trust. It's not required to file any returns. And when you remove assets into any disregarded entity, especially a revocable land trust, there's no tax consequences. There's no triggering event that says, hey, we're going to have any type of income associated with the movement of this asset from myself into the revocable land trust or from my LLC into the land trust. So if you needed to file a tax return for a land trust, you said, hey, well, I want to use an irrevocable trust, right? I might be located in California, and what I can afford to put in for asset protection is one irrevocable trust. That's the only times that we've actually used irrevocable trusts for these types of asset protection vehicles. So if you are using it as just the revocable trust that we use just for anonymity purposes, which is our bread and butter of what we do inside of Royal Legal Solutions, then there's no tax filing, there's no tax consequences. If you're the kind of person that says, or your situation where it makes sense to say, hey, actually, I'm going to use this land trust, but I'm going to use it as an irrevocable trust, now you have to start thinking of it as a business entity, right? So what does that mean? It needs to get an EIN number. It needs to have a bank account. It needs to have a set of books. It needs to file a yearly tax return. It needs to file a K-1 to say that it distributed money to you as a beneficiary of the trust. So there's these other pieces here that you can see that we have listed up on the slide that says, hey, here's all the things you're going to need to do if you're using the trust as an irrevocable trust. The only reason you would ever use the trust as an irrevocable trust is because you're trying to get asset protection and anonymity inside of a single trust structure. Of course, you can see here the downside of combining both of those inside of one entity, the asset protection and the anonymity, is that you end up having to do a lot more operationally, right? You're talking about extra bank accounts, tax returns, K-1s, et cetera. And that's why we typically choose to use the revocable trust, because we want things to stay more streamlined, right? We understand that there's a lot of operational load if you start using irrevocable trust. But if you only have one asset and you're located inside of California and it's just like your primary residence or something like that, it could make a lot of sense to use an irrevocable trust. Okay, guys, so that is what we have in preparation for just the key tax events that we have regarding irrevocable trust. Is that something you're interested in? Go to the link right here, go.royallegalsolutions.com/free consult. We'll drop that into the chat as well too, and that's a great place to schedule that follow-up call for everybody. So real quick, guys, just coming off of following up on some of the questions that we had come up during the presentation, or some of the questions that we had came up in the very beginning of the session. One was a question of like, who should be trustee? My opinion is that you should always have an attorney be the trustee of any of your trusts. One, because it's not very expensive to do. We offer an unlimited nominee trustee service for $500 a year. It means we'll be your trustee on anything you have, from LLCs to land trusts to et cetera. And that way you can afford to be able to have a professional trustee service that has the protections of a law firm. So that way, if anybody ever asks us, we actually can't tell them. It's protected by the attorney-client privilege, which is a privilege that only exists with the attorneys, if an attorney is used there. And also, attorneys have a duty, right? So we have insurance policies and we have professional responsibility duties that if we break, they strip away our licensure to be able to watch out for your best interest. So that's the way you're able to protect yourself. Say, hey, how do I get the best anonymity protection? I use an attorney. How do I get the best service using my trustee? Well, it's a professional company that is there that's commonly servicing and aiding me in any type of title transfer issues that I might have coming up. And then how do I make sure they don't steal my stuff? Well, it's because they immediately get put out of business if they were to do anything that was untoward, right? There's also some things in there you can know about, like looking at like, who do you trust? It's like, what's their track record, like total number of people they help, et cetera. That's why I think it's better. I personally don't trust individuals. I trust companies, because companies have people that get paid on salary that operate off of SOPs. And that's the way I like to be able to ensure that I'm going to have stability in all of my relationships. Brendan, I wanted to hit on your question and your comment in here in the chat about the property taxes that can happen and reassessments with land trusts. So we have been really successful with always applying for exemptions to transfer taxes as well as reassessments when we transfer assets into the trust. But as Brandon pointed out, he says, hey, it's actually been in a little bit of a pain, because technically what happens is that anytime you transfer the asset from one name to the other, the assessor says, hey, this is a great time for me to reassess, unless I see a filed exception for it, right? And the same thing happens on the transfer tax side of things. So if you're in a state that has transfer taxes and you're worried about reassessments, there's typically a process that you have to go through to be able to apply and submit to be able to make sure that they're not going to reassess the properties. So just know, as Brandon correctly points out, that it's like, yeah, it can be a bit of a hassle on that end of it. Again, those are probably issues that we would probably have talked about with Jason. Jason Marino, who's here on the call, is one of our in-house attorneys with that. Those are things that you'd say, like, man, I'd love to be able to do the land trust. I'd love to be able to transfer the stuff, but I really just don't want to touch any paperwork at all, like with any parts of it, and be like, great, then make it Jason's problem, right? And say, hey, Jason, these are the things that I know are going to be issues here, and I need help with having those documents filled out for me and submitted correctly. I'll tell you 100%, tax issues and legal work is probably like, it's something that if you don't love it, you ain't ever going to love it, right? But luckily there's people out there like Jason and the attorney and paralegal team at RLS that love doing it and love the puzzle of it, and love being able to do all the details around all of it. So I really recommend leveraging into the people that enjoy doing the work, and then focusing on the things that nobody else can do for you, which is spending time with your family, creating an amazing life, and making more money. Those are things that nobody else can do for you. The more you can spend your time doing that, the more you can offload on to other people, the happier you're going to be in life, the wealthier you're going to become, and not just money, but in every way. Thank you guys so much for all of your time and attention today. I hope you got to learn a little bit about land trusts and how they're powerful, as well as the details around it. We went super deep in today. If it was like, oh my God, this is drinking from like a water hose of information to be able to come in land trust, don't worry about it, right? Because the issue is, I want you to make a decision that I want to go to land trust. There's a full team of support to be able to handle all these issues and coach you through them every step of the way as you come through. You just have to then make the decision about like, hey, is anonymity important to me? Right, and is anonymity inside of my anonymity inside of my protection structure something that I want to invest in to be able to have the benefits that brings, of being able to sleep a little easier at night, knowing that you're going to be able to stop lawsuits many times before they even start. And if they do start, you're able to get out of them cheaper and easier than if you had nothing put on before. So if you're a person that says, man, I'm interested, I'm curious, I have some more questions here about land trust, that's a great time to connecting with the team. And I know that the team is dropping messages down in here to be able to have opportunities to be able to connect with us. I highly recommend you go ahead and connect, ask those questions and connect with us. Let us give you the other resources that we have, whether that's going to be the masterclass decks, whether that's going to be specific webinars that we've already have recorded. We can tell you when future webinars are coming up on to answer some of the other questions that you might have coming up so you can know when you need to tune in and when that's going to be powerful for you. But it all comes with having the personal connection with the team, and that's what we want for everybody working here. So go ahead and connect with us here, either in the Discord or inside of one of the meeting links that we have coming up that are posted there in the chat. And I'll see you guys next week. Take care, everyone. Have a great one.